everyone, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30. We are going to get right into weather because the big story tonight is the cold temperatures. It's definitely cold out there right now, but overnight and tomorrow, it's going to get even colder. So let's turn things over to our chief meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix. Joe, how cold could it get?
First, I want to know, how was the Lions game?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Yeah. Yes, I was at the game, and
I still have a voice. That's good.
I still have a voice. Luckily, I had yesterday off to kind of rest and recover, drink a lot of tea, because I did indeed scream my butt off the entire game. But I was not expecting the game to, I don't think anyone expected the game to be like that. We all thought it was going to be a blowout. It was 10-6 at halftime.
Yeah, it was.
But anyway, great game. And luckily in Detroit, it was cold, but nothing like too cold, like what's going to be like here in northern Michigan.
Yeah, that's a good point, Maya. Yeah. Especially later tonight, some spots, not everybody, but some areas are going to go below zero tonight. And you factor in the wind, that'll be a bit of an issue too. And we also have lake effect snow. Here's a look around the region right now. You're looking at, well, that's not Petoskey, it's Drummond Island, but Gaylord, Traverse City, and Cadillac. The Traverse City area with regard to snow is one area we're watching. Here's a look at radar currently. And you can see some of the snow, widespread snow, but the bulk of this is going to funnel into the Grand Traverse region later tonight. We already have a band of snow there from Missaukee County near Lake City, between Cadillac and Houghton Lake, back up toward Traverse City. And that's the one we're kind of watching. The other story is the cold, as Maya mentioned. Here's a look at the current wind chill readings. But by the time we head into tomorrow morning, we'll stop this around, 7, 8 o'clock. Check out Drummond Island, look at Sault Ste. Marie, 13 to almost 20 below zero. Is what it's going to feel like for those areas. Even Gaylord and along the Lake Huron shoreline, pretty cold tomorrow morning. So we'll talk more about that, how long this is going to last, and a look at how much snow is on the way too in a few minutes.
And going off of that, as the temperatures start to get colder in northern Michigan, more health risks can also come with those cold temperatures. So our Cody Bear visited Munson Healthcare today and spoke with a doctor about the dangers of hypothermia and frostbite and symptoms of both conditions and ways to try to prevent them. So the doctor says that frostbite can lead to amputations and hypothermia can actually be fatal. But the doctor says the key to all of this is prevention. So let's take a listen to what she told our Cody Bear today.
Making sure you're checking in maybe on like elderly neighbors and friends, making sure that they're prepared and safe. If you are going out on a walk or a hike, you'd want to let others know, where you're going to be. If you are in your vehicle, you want to make sure you have an extra set of warm clothes to have on hand that you could change into, or, have on hand if you had to be outside unexpectedly.
And for more on Cody's conversation with Dr. Police, let's bring in Cody live now. And Cody, you're in your car now, which is good. But during our 6 o'clock show, we saw you outside braving the conditions. How is it out there tonight?
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold. And, it's snowy out there, so you can tell it's cold. But even when it's not snowing as much right now, those temperatures are still there. And that's what it really is, are those cold temperatures.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk more about your conversation with the doctor. So what are some symptoms of hypothermia that she told you today?
Yeah, so some of the symptoms can be red or pale tissue, kind of on those fingertips. You'll see it most of the time. And then, some loss of feeling. And this is for frostbite, around the fingers and the toes are what you mentioned, where you'll mostly have it. And you'll have some loss of feeling, or on the other side, you'll have tingling, and it can be painful. And then hypothermia, on the other side, hypothermia can include, in extreme cases, confusion, and in very extreme cases, loss of consciousness. And those ones are the ones that you really want to be paying attention to. Extreme shivering is kind of a mild case where it's like, okay, I really need to go inside. Mm-hmm. But those extreme ones are the ones where you really need to think about, going to the emergency room.
So did Dr. Police mention how cold it has to be in order for someone to develop frostbite or hypothermia?
Yeah, so Dr. Police told me that the risk they really start to look at it at around 31 degrees and below. Wow. And as you know, 31 degrees and below is the case a lot around here. Mm-hmm. So that's when she sees the most cases. We didn't really go into statistics of how many cases they'll see, but with it being 31 degrees and below, they see it a lot around this time of year, all the way, up to April, because those temperatures can stay that low.
Sure. So do you know how long it takes for these symptoms to start to kick in when someone is outside in cold temperatures?
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about exactly how long, but she did tell me that it'll kick in pretty quick, especially the smaller ones. The shivering, which shivering can happen in general, but a lot of that extreme shivering can begin to kick in pretty quick. And then that loss of color is going to be the first thing you see. She didn't tell me exactly how long, but it doesn't take that long. You'll see it and you'll know.
And then so when someone is having these symptoms, should they go to the emergency room? Should they call 911? What should they do right away?
Yeah, so if it's some of the smaller symptoms, Dr. Police tells me, of course, get inside, get to heat. And then for those extreme symptoms, yeah, you want to go to an urgent care facility for frostbite. And then hypothermia, she tells me, Munson Healthcare is an option. You want to go to an emergency department right away if you're feeling extreme cases of things like hypothermia, because as you mentioned, hypothermia can be fatal. So that's the one where it's really, once you're starting to feel those symptoms, yes, get warm, but also think about making that move to finding a way to get to an emergency department.
And the doctor says the biggest thing to do is to take preventative measures. So I'm sure a lot of us already know some of the different things you can do to stay warm to prevent frostbite and hypothermia. But what are some other things that people can do that you learned today?
Yeah. I spoke with Dr. Police about, you want to stay inside when it's cold, but if you do have to go outside, what are those preventative measures that you can take? And she mentioned layers. You want to put on a lot of layers of clothing. I remember as a kid, that's a fight that I had with my mom all the time. Was, I don't want to put on that many. I'm fine. But
right.
You're not when it gets this cold, and you want to put on as many layers as you can. She also mentioned, and you could hear it in the soundbite a little bit, that I thought was really interesting, was checking in. Check in on people that are going outside. And then a big preventative measure that you can take, even if it's really a safety measure at this point, is when you're going outside, let people know, especially when it gets this cold. And that can be a preventative measure of the extreme cases, is just, letting people know. So they're checking in on you. And I thought that was a really interesting part that she said. And it's something that I don't think a lot of us think about. Oh, we're going outside for a walk. It's just a walk.
Right.
But as it gets cold, layer up and maybe let someone know, hey, I'm going outside. It's going to be very, very cold on this walk. And they hopefully will, check in on you a little bit later.
Yeah, that is a simple thing that I think we all should probably do more, especially here in northern Michigan. A lot of people are winter outdoor enthusiasts. Like you said, they like to go for a walk. They like to snowshoe, cross country, ski, snowmobile, whatever it is. You probably just go out the door thinking, I'm going to enjoy my day and take advantage of these colder temperatures and snow. But you really never know what could happen. So it's always a good idea to let people know where you are going. So you mentioned one of the biggest things you can do to prevent these sort of conditions is to stay inside if it's cold. But of course, a lot of us sometimes don't have that option, especially maybe students who are going to school. Maybe they have to wait outside for the school bus, or even just getting out of the bus and running into the school. It can be cold. And I know some schools, so growing up in Alpena, every now and then we would have a cold day. So we'd have the day off from school because it was just too cold to be outside. So I know you spoke with a superintendent and talked a little more about when they would actually cancel school because of the temperatures. What did you learn?
Yeah, so he told me that the temperatures have to get pretty low, but the reason they do it is, of course, safety. And there are some infrastructure things as well, with buses and things like that. But most of it is just keeping families safe, keeping kids safe coming to school. They have to get pretty low. I'll let you know just a little bit. They have to get down a lot of times. It's not completely universal across the state, but sometimes they have to get down to about -20. So it has to get very, very cold for you to actually see that they're closing schools because of just the temperature. But when it does get to that very, very extreme level of cold, they just want to make sure, kids have to wait outside at the bus stop, or kids that even walk to school. They want to keep those kids safe. They're thinking about those kids. So they watch that wind chill. And when it gets that cold, they definitely think about, hey, we should, even if it's not snowing and the roads are okay, think about not having school today, not to risk having kids, getting too cold while coming to school and going home.
Right. And I know you will have much more on that tonight coming up at 11, and you don't want to give away too much information that we're going to learn at 11. But is there anything else that right now you want to mention that you think people should know?
Yeah, just do what you can to stay warm. Those preventative measures are so important. Wearing jackets, wearing gloves, wearing shorts and an extra pair of pants if you can, doing whatever you can to really, really stay warm. Because as I mentioned with Dr. Police, emergency services are here and it's great that we have them. But with things like amputation and disabilities after things like hypothermia and frostbite, the best thing you can do is just be preventative. So yeah, reach out to people, say, I'm going on a walk. Reach out to people and say, hey, how are you doing with this cold? And do what you can to stay warm.
All right, Cody, thanks so much for joining us and for sharing some very important tips to stay safe during these cold temperatures. Now let's turn things over to our question of the day related to all the cold. That is, do you change your daily routine when the temperature goes below zero? You can scan the QR code on your screen right now. That'll take you to our website where you can vote. It looks like we have 134 votes as of right now, and 43% say yes, 57% say no. You can also join in on the conversation on our Facebook page. We have a post with the question of the day and some comments, and I will look through those comments a little later. But I'm trying to think if I change my daily routine. I mean, I'll probably stay in bed a little longer if it's going to be below zero outside, because having a dog, the first thing I do when I get out of bed is I go walk my dog. And so if it's that cold, I'm like, all right, let's just stay in bed as long as we can. And then, of course, I do this really anytime it's like below freezing, but I put my dog in like a little jacket so he stays nice and warm. But like I said, we will continue to keep an eye on those questions a little later. But we have an update to a story that we first shared with you, I believe it is last week. So 54 state representatives have signed their names on a letter that is accusing the DNR of forgetting its mission entirely. So what sparked those strong words is a latest proposed solar project to be built on state land in Otsego County. And tonight, that letter may have changed those plans. So here is Mark Schlett with this update.
It's getting shoved down our throats. It's changing our northern landscape, and not for the better.
State Representative Cam Cavett isn't alone in his outrage. In fact, he's one of 54 lawmakers who signed this, an open letter to the DNR expressing their outrage over a possible lease of 400 acres of state forest land for solar panels.
Boy, the old Joni Mitchell song, Pave Paradise to put up a parking lot, It was shocking that they'd want to clear cut some trees to put a solar farm in. I hadn't imagined that, to be honest with you, Mark.
The 400-acre parcel of state land may have been attractive to energy company RWE, which already has leases next door on private land for its 1,000-acre 45th parallel solar project. And the DNR understands why their property may have made sense for a lease.
Close to the electrical transmission corridor, which makes it a big advantage for solar energy. It's also in a place where we've been told the electrical grid, can take more electrons.
Land leases by the state generate money, and the DNR explained to us in an earlier interview they can use that money to replace what was leased away.
One of the things that we'd like to do on this project is use some of the revenue to buy replacement forest land elsewhere.
But outrage over the Otsego County proposal, once it was made public, was quick and firm, lawmakers demanding the DNR change course, while RWE choosing to do the same. In a statement provided to UpNorthLive News, RWE confirmed they would not be pursuing the 400-acre Otsego County state land lease with the DNR to expand their solar project beyond the current 1,000 acres, saying, quote, "We conducted outreach to all landowners adjacent to the project location, including DNR. Ultimately, we decided to move forward with leasing property from the two private landowners for this particular project," end quote. Situation perhaps resolved, but the change in course isn't really a solution in some eyes.
The DNR is still moving forward with their plans to find at least 4,000 acres to develop for solar energy. You know, they're going to use that. I hate to use the word solar farm. I'm not a big fan of that because it's not farming. It's not agricultural. It's industrial. And they are industrializing our northern landscapes without our permission, Mark.
Otsego County's not alone in having potentially available state land that could draw the attention of solar companies like RWE. Down the road in Roscommon County, the DNR has approved a 1,000-acre land lease, which is estimated by some to generate $1 million a year in tax revenue.
Benefit would be the property tax revenue. That's good for your schools. It helps out the schools a lot, and basic tax revenue for the county.
While few argue the upside of an influx of revenue for local governments, many of those who signed their names to this say different considerations, policies, and transparent procedures should be in place when it's the people's land.
If there's some private people with private property that want to do it, I think that's between them and the local government. But as far as using state land, property that belongs to all the people of Michigan to do something like this without getting their input is absolutely wrong.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Well, again, the big story today, weather-wise, is the cold temperatures, and we are expected to see some of probably the coolest temperatures of the entire winter season so far. So let's bring in our meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix, who has much more on the cold temperatures and some snow around northern Michigan.
I got a little bit of lake effect snow, Maya, and then also, some cold too. You're looking right there at Drummond Island. That's one area tonight where it's going to feel like, 13, 14, 15 below. There's a look right now, 13 degrees. The wind chill 4, but the other thing too, look at the sky condition. It's completely clear there. So without that blanket of clouds, we're in store for a chilly night up that way. Let's start, though, with the snow. We do have some lake effect snow. Here's the broad look at northern Michigan tonight. There it is. Some snow across parts of the UP and also the lower peninsula. So here's some snow up around Marquette, that region. And then lake effect snow, fairly widespread right now across Lake Michigan, but the heaviest of the snow is going to be right in through here tonight. The Grand Traverse region, near west of Traverse City especially. That'll be fun on my drive home tonight. That's where I live. Here's a look, though, at Stormcast, what we expect. So you can kind of see where the snow will fall tonight. So if you're in Sheboygan, Alpena, Sault Ste. Marie, you're not going to get a lot of snow. It's mainly, again, Traverse City, south and west, down toward Frankfort, Manistee, Ludington, through tomorrow morning. You see the clock there. There's around 10:15 tomorrow. Right along US 31 there, Honor, down toward almost to Muskegon. A little bit of snow in the UP, too. And then this will kind of wind down tomorrow night, head north, get pushed out of here. And Thursday actually looks pretty quiet, just a couple of lighter snow showers. So here's our thoughts on accumulation tonight. That Traverse City region, near and south and west of there is where most of that will fall. And there's the total out through early on Thursday. So again, Gaylord, maybe an inch. Traverse City, perhaps pushing 8. A little bit more maybe west of town there. We have a big bubble of high pressure, too, building in. So you see the cold north of us. It is chilly. Temperatures right now locally are in the teens and 20s. There's a current look at things. But when you factor in the wind chill, this is what it's going to feel like tomorrow morning. And again, look at Sault Ste. Marie, almost 20 below zero. This is the wind chill there. And even at Gaylord, we have wind chill readings below zero. There's tomorrow afternoon. The coldest temperatures will be along and east of the interstate. And then as we head into the day on Thursday, it won't be quite as bad. The cold air will start to retreat some with temperatures generally in the teens. So in the forecast, here's what we're looking at. Now, we put a weather-worn day for the combination of the lake effect snow and the cold tomorrow. But Thursday and Friday, we get back into the 20s, close to 30. Not a lot of snow. There will be some snow showers around Friday into Saturday. And then another system comes in later in the weekend into next week. So a little wintry coming up here over the next few days.
So overall message is stay warm out there, folks.
Yeah, especially tomorrow morning.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much, Joe. We are going to take another quick break. But coming up next, Sports Director Harrison Beebe will take a look at the successful year all the Detroit teams have been having so far. Stay with us. That's next.
2025 is turning out to be a miraculous year for Detroit pro sports, and that's coming off a Tigers run from last fall that was pretty memorable too. But as we all know, the Lions are doing their thing. The Pistons and Red Wings are both out to 4-game win streaks at the moment, as well as they look to contend in their leagues into the spring. But we start with the Motor City Kitties. The Lions, of course, 15-2, the top seed in the NFC standings for the playoffs. Here's the playoff picture. Now, as a reminder, this is not the traditional bracket that will be used. The Lions do get the bye, but they're awaiting to play the lowest seed that advances out of the NFC wildcard spot. It could be anyone of Green Bay, Washington, the LA Rams, or Minnesota Vikings. But the Lions, 1-0 in 2025. Detroit Pistons have looked unstoppable as they're on their 4-game win streak, and all 4 wins coming in the year 2025. Even losing Jaden Ivey the other night, the Pistons are still winning ball games with a deep bench, and that's propelled them to the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference playoff standings at the moment, which would make them the top play-in team if the season ended today. There's a logjam of teams in there, but it looks at 18-18, 500. The Pistons are pretty serious about contending for at least a spot in that play-in tournament between the 7 and 10 seeds come April. And the Red Wings, what more can be said about the Red Wings after their season looked all but forgotten? The day after Christmas, they fire head coach Derek Lalonde. They then hire new head coach Todd McClellan that same day. And after dropping the first game, the Wings have won 4 straight on their own, 2-0 in the year of 2025. And that will look to continue tonight as the Red Wings host the Ottawa Senators. And back here locally, we got a doubleheader of girls basketball coming your way tonight during sports at 11 in the Northwest Conference. The 2 best teams and undefeated teams are Onekama and Leland. The Comets and Portagers square off. We'll see who comes out on top in that one. Also a good rivalry between Glen Lake and Frankfort, 2 programs that know what it's like to make runs to the Breslin Center and the Final Four. So join us for those highlights at 11. That'll do it for Sports on Unscripted. I'm Harrison Beebe.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Do you change your daily routine when the temperature goes below 0? Patrick says, I put on a coat. David said, nope, get up and go to work as usual. And Barth says, I change it when it gets below 60 degrees. Well, that'll do it for Unscripted tonight at 6:30. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay warm out there, and we'll see you back here at 11 o'clock tonight.